Hi, everybody. Welcome to Interesting AF or Interesting as Fuck, depending on what languages you speak. And we are here to talk about continued with the Jaws theme because it is awesome. We have our doc is in today, and we all know how Elaine loves a documentary, loves one.
Amen.
And so today we are going to be discussing Jaws at 50 because Jaws has been out for 50 years. And Disney Plus has a great documentary on the topic. And so today we're going to discuss that. But just to kind of bring everybody up, yes, last episode was where we talked about Jaws, and I had never seen Jaws before. And just to remind everybody, Elaine woke up with, I think, 50 text messages because I was walking it. I am more of a night owl, so I did everything in the evening, and she's, more of the early bird. She woke up with a lot of text messages, live reactions to, and also the mayor sucks, everybody.
Yes.
So again. Anyway, so the documentary is Disney Plus. They got some really great, interviews and kind of back to background on the movie. But Elaine, please take us away. Kind of lead us through this, and I will what the fuck meter in the middle of
Okay. So this is, I think it's more the story behind like how this movie gets made or almost doesn't get made, right? You have 27-year-old Steven Spielberg. It is his second movie ever. And I think we talked a little bit about his first movie, Duel, which is it's kind of in the same vein. You have, as the word that he likes to use, this Leviathan that is hunting someone else or terrorizing someone else, and in Jaws's case, terrorizing an entire town. But he's 27. He reads the book by Peter Benchley, Jaws, and says, I have to make this movie. Apparently, there's already a director on the project that, fortunately for all of us, because listen, I don't know who that person was, and I'm sure it would have been a fantastic movie, but it wouldn't have been this movie. And this is the most perfect movie ever made. But it took time. There were a lot of mechanics involved. I got a couple of Linda texts about that. And lots of money. And that time went over and that money went over. And it was funny because I'm going to throw in a show recommendation here because it wasn't quite as dramatic as this show makes it, but if it reminded me a lot of the show called The Offer, which is a 10 out of 10. It's not a documentary, but it's a mini series about the making of the movie The Godfather, another perfect movie. And
R.I.P. Diane Keaton.
Oh dear God. Oh God. Don't make me cry.
Sorry, everybody. We had to say something.
The Diane Keaton movie. Yes, the Michael Corleone, Diane Keaton's husband.
Diane Keaton's son-in-law.
Quite helpful, helping me follow the story. Sorry, Brooklyn Nine-Nine for everybody who didn't get the reference. The Offer, which is about the making of The Godfather, another perfect movie. But it's 8 episodes. Miles Teller plays the producer from Paramount in it. It's a fantastic movie. The Godfather is also over 50 years old. This movie's been out for almost 50 years. I've seen the movie 100 times at least. And every episode of The Offer, I would turn to my husband and say, I don't know that this movie's going to get made. Like, it built like such great suspense and stories that you never knew about the making of The Godfather. This felt similar on a much more like muted scale because The Offer is a like dramatic, acted, scripted show. But, obviously I've seen Jaws at least once, if not twice a year since I was 3.5. Because for us, that is an Independence Day movie. That is a mandatory 4th of July watch in our household. you still kind of got stressed that you were like, how the hell are they going to make this movie? And you're like, wait, I've seen this movie a million times. Of course it gets made. But yeah, I love how much they go into. They show us the making of the greatest scream in cinematic history, right? Within the first 3 minutes of the movie is one of the greatest screams outside of maybe Psycho in the shower.
I have a quick question.
Yeah,
Why is Emily Blunt in this documentary?
I have no idea. I like when I watched it, I started Googling like, why is this person involved with this documentary? But like, I just stopped asking questions because I was like, I would have loved to have been called about it.
Yeah, I
don't know.
mean Emily Blunt, I have nothing against
I love
Emily
her.
Blunt. Like, she's great.
Yeah.
But I was like, why her? Maybe it's like a new thing. Maybe she was doing a movie with Steven at the time, but I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe
Film.
like she heard that this was being made and told her agent she had to be a part of it, which is absolutely 1000% what I would do. I understand why like Jordan Peele was in there
Yeah.
and
Oh,
Guillermo del
100%.
Toro, like all of these directors who literally say, I think was it Steven Soderbergh who was like the Soderbergh or Sonderberg? Soderbergh. I confused the Broadway and the screen and the screen director. Literally said like, this movie is the reason I became a director. J.J. Abrams, Quentin Tarantino called Jaws the perfect movie.
I mean, that made sense, right? Because I feel like this was a director's view
100%.
of the movie, right? I think you think Jaws, you think Steven Spielberg, right? Much more than you see, the others. And I think it's quite telling. And I really enjoyed how the documentary at first said, there's all these new. It was like a changing of the guard with vis-a-vis directors at the time, and
George Lucas.
George Lucas and
time as Steven Spielberg.
Martin Scorsese, these types of kind of same kind of like changing of the guard of the directors, and also the concept that they linked it to the unrest that was happening at the time in the US, right? There was a lot of things going on in the world in the US. And I think the concept of art being able to use these kind of frustrations and use new directors to take risks in ways that maybe older directors wouldn't have. I think it's very telling, and I think is also a testament or kind of an analogy that we should think about today, right? There's always new ways to think of something. There's always new ways to change, and I think that's what Jaws really demonstrated, right? You had this like 26-foot mechanical shark that they built out of nothing really fast, right? and I think that's what I kind of connected with the most, that sometimes we think we live in this part of time where it's like the first time these types of themes have happened, and it's not. We've lived through a shit ton of stuff. Art has always been co-opted by money, or done all these things, or pushed to the brink, and then there's people that decide to move, go beyond that. And I think that's where, you see the Scorseses, the George Lucases, the Steven Spielbergs kind of push that envelope, and we're able to do that. So I found that interesting that they connected the directors at the beginning. It was like a new crop of directors changing the way people saw and connected to movies.
But then also the directors that they inspired, all speaking specifically to this one movie. And I like your point about taking risk, because the idea that he was going to build either an 18, 26 or 32-foot mechanical shark, they're probably like, what the hell? We can use B-roll of sharks. Like, he's like, no. But taking that risk then gives him the budget to say, I need real mechanical dinosaurs for Jurassic Park, because I'm not using, like, CGI was not a thing in the 70s, but it sure was coming out in 1993 when Jurassic Park came out. And if he had CGI'd those dinosaurs, it would be a very, very, very different movie.
Very
So taking
different
those risks
movie.
helps on the road too, which was absolutely fantastic. I also just love, I think this documentary did a really good job of, if I had to summarize it in like one phrase, is like keeping it local. And I mean that in two ways. One, people hear Jaws and they associate it with Steven Spielberg, but it really, like this book by Peter Benchley, they give Peter Benchley gets like the recognition he deserves for his part in what then led to The Most Perfect Movie. So I'm glad that they talked as much about him as they did. His wife Wendy was in it. Um, and then I think one of my favorite stories as like a part of the making of Jaws is like how involved Steven Spielberg got the local community of Martha's Vineyard. Like so many people in that movie are islanders, were from there and weren't actors, and they were just cast after they got like kind of, not after the fact, but after they got to the island and saying like, we're going to make this movie. I mean, a story I told when we talked about Jaws, the boy who plays Alex Kintner, he's a local. I don't think the woman who played his mother was a local, but she would frequent the island. The guy who plays Brody's, police
Assistant,
officer
right?
assistant that works for him, he's from the island. The guy who goes swimming with Chrissy in the beginning, the blonde haired kid, he's from I mean, it's just so many people. The kid who plays his own son, Michael, is from Martha's Vineyard. His brother is the one who owns the merch store that I've been in every time I've gone to Martha's Vineyard, and I grew up in New England. So once a year, there's a big famous road race on Cape Cod that my mom would run. And so as part of that, that was like our summer vacation every year, was on the Cape. And then we'd always take the ferry over to Martha's Vineyard. We've been on the little like car mover thing, but like that merch store is still there, and it's just such a big part of Jaws is such a big part of Edgartown, Martha's Vineyard.
Well, one question that everybody wants to know: have you jumped off the Jaws bridge?
Hell yeah,
There you go.
many times. And sometimes you have to be really careful because the current under there can be really strong. And then also low tide, it's too shallow. So like you really have to hit it at the right time. And I haven't been up there in a very, very long time, so they may not let people jump off it anymore, but I have absolutely 1000% jumped off that bridge several times, like to the point where I just kept getting out and kept jumping off of it. My parents were finally like, all right, like, all right.
Get out of the water! You hurt your father. You hurt your father.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, I think again, what I really, and I think people don't, I think movies are very subliminal in their messaging, right?
Mhm.
They are saying something about what is going on in the external environment and kind of explaining the importance of community, of being with people that are from where you are, but also kind of, people come out and there's always a danger, and people kind of come together to improve a situation despite, where their background is from, and where what they do and how they respond to like a danger. And I think that
If
that
they
was
hate the
that
water.
exactly, if they hate the water, if they're, not from here and now they believe this is home. I think there's a lot of things that like in the 70s, there were so many changes to the societal fabric, um that you have these movies that say something and you don't realize they say something until later, I think. And I truly appreciated, kind of the amount of time they spent on Robert Shaw.
Yes.
Like I really appreciated that. They could have done a whole thing about Brody, right? They talked about Brody, but like there wasn't like, Robert Shaw, and I think they really kind of honed into the US Indianapolis, story and how that monologue came to be. And I think Elaine, you had mentioned it last time, that that is a monologue that most actors use, in auditions and all of that. And you don't like, I think going through that and then understanding how important that moment is in the movie, like afterwards, I think really kind of brings you to the inevitability of, Quint kind of meeting his end in that way. Cause in the end, it's kind of poetic, right? He
Yeah.
went down with his mates, but, he was able to get out, but, he meets the same end as them. And is it, are we talking about determinism, free will, or there's a fate somewhere that, we can't control? And I think those are things that, again, subliminal messaging that happens. And then you come back and you go, oh, that's what he was trying to say.
Oh yeah, like you knew Quint was going down with that shark. Like I don't think he ever intended to return with that ship, like with his
No.
boat at any point in the movie. Yeah, I actually wrote in my notes because it cracks me up that Robert Shaw was like the marquee name on like when Jaws was coming out, and it was because you think of the career that Richard Dreyfuss and Roy Scheider went on to have, and this movie like completely just absolutely propelled them. And obviously Robert Shaw passed away like not long after this movie was made, so he couldn't have the longer career that the two of them had. But um man, Richard Dreyfuss, like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Have you seen that?
No.
You should totally watch that one. So Steven Spielberg mentions it in his movie because
Yeah.
that's one he made not long after that. Richard Dreyfuss is the star of that one. Fantastic movie. I think that one's a little bit, if I recall, I haven't watched that one in years, but it's pretty long. But it's Steven Spielberg and it's Richard Dreyfuss, and it's really, really good.
I love a Steven Spielberg movie. I mean, he never like it's I'm trying to think of any movie that I've seen of his that I'm like, yeah, I don't
Right, right. Like I
like.
can hear so I don't know if you know anything about Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You can kind of, yeah, it's an alien movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's not like an Independence Day type of, it's definitely more of like think Contact, right? Like more
Yeah.
science, sci-fi than like action or
Yeah.
or thriller or horror film. And there's this little like almost like the Contact song that the ship plays. I can hear it like in my head right now, and probably haven't watched that movie in 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
But to go back to the Indianapolis part too, it's just the USS Indianapolis monologue. It's so interesting too, because you think that movie was made in 1975. I don't think there's like an actual, maybe it's in like the paper, but there's no like set, like you don't open the show and it's like, this is 1974 or this is 1975.
Ye-
But in thinking of when that movie was made, it's been 30 years since like the
It's
time in
not
which
that.
that movie is filmed exactly is not that long ago that the USS Indianapolis happened. And here we are 80 years removed from it, but at that time, still pretty fresh
Yeah.
to a
And
lot of people that would have gone to see that movie and probably
and
fought in World War II.
and in an environment where you had the US waging a war in Vietnam. And
Yeah,
does
yeah,
that
they were just coming back. Yep, yeah, it's
and
crazy.
I think the parallels around, what Steven Spielberg was saying, and I think even what Robert Benchley was saying, right? I think, there's, I think talking about the not the necessarily duty, but how all of this works all together and how our experiences kind of lead us to deal with like problems that we encounter and how we work together with other people to get them done. I think and to your point, I think if Jaws hadn't been the crazy kind of success that it was, and I would think that every time, a director's making a movie, they kind of go back to that, like, how do I make this movie kind of come back? Some people were saying in the interviews, oh, they were watching it 8 times in the theaters, right? And that's what happened with Titanic. I know James Cameron
Yep.
is in this one too, but that's what happened, right? With the concept that you get people to go back and back and back to a movie because it connects you to your experience, I think is the key here. And I think that's what Steven Spielberg, like, even making it, right? He was talking about how difficult it was and how he felt that he was going to be fired, and it was like he had responsibility of everybody on top of him, and he was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, and he would like be wake up at night and be like, what's going on? And
Right.
I think that he imbued that in the movie as well. And I think people resonate to that. They know how that feels. They know when they feel overtly responsible for things, or that terror. And I think, for him, I think the terror of Jaws is Jaws the movie itself, right? It's not
Right.
necessarily Bruce, right? Also, note that the shark's name is Bruce, which is awesome. And the fact that it's named after a lawyer is even better.
And I think I mentioned this on the last one when you watched the movie. Bruce in Finding Nemo is named after Bruce from Jaws.
That's awesome. That
Like
is
it's
awesome.
all of it's all tied, like it's a nod, right, to Jaws and to Steven Spielberg, which is so
Yeah,
great, which
it's
I
so
love.
great. And I really like, I honestly did like how this movie was about Steven and how he experienced the movie. Even
Yeah,
though there were, like, of course, like, other directors, but it was really much more of a director's eye view and perspective on the movie, which I think I really appreciated, because he had to fight. He had to fight. He had to make sure this happened, and
yeah,
he kind of got there, right?
yeah. I mean, I'm just looking through like the list of his movies, and like I've seen probably 80% of these, and there's not one where I'm like,
Right?
it just wasn't all that great.
They're
Like,
all like, yeah, it's just super magnificent, everything he does.
yeah,
Um,
his next movie after Jaws was Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and then we get into Indiana Jones, we get into E.T., which E.T. terrifies me. Like I can't watch that movie from this scene where he gets all turns all white and they have to do the AED. Like
no,
I can't
no,
do that one. But like we've got, let's see what else. Empire of the Sun, fantastic movie.
fantastic movie.
Hook, Jurassic Park,
Okay,
Schindler's List,
Hook
Amistad, Saving Private Ryan.
Hook is so underappreciated. Is so
Not in this
underappreciated.
house.
It is fucking amazing. And we like it's like there's an ode to that movie is magnificent. And one of my favorite scenes in that movie is like when the kids come back to their beds and the
Yes.
mom thinks they're not there, and she's like, "Oh, I'm dreaming about them." And like the look, like once you became a parent, like you like kind of understand that, like the how she reacts to be like, "Oh my god, they're back." Like I'm going to cry. But like that's like the feeling of like being really worried about your kids and then them being okay. I think that like the way that was acted and like directed was so good. And Robin Williams. Oh
Oh, Dustin
god.
Hoffman. Like Phil Collins. Phil Collins is in that movie.
That's right. That's right. Phil Collins is in that movie. Damn.
This is a total tangent, but speaking of like watching movies since you've become a parent, because Diane Keaton passed away, we watched Father of the Bride last night. Oh my god, I haven't watched that movie in so long.
It's such a good
Linda's just,
movie.
Linda's just crying just because I mentioned it.
It's such a good movie.
It's so good, but I have not watched that movie since getting married or becoming a parent. And at one point, I turned to my husband and was like, "Dad." It was,
That's awesome.
but I also know, like, I can count on one hand, like, how many times my dad has cried. And one of those times was the first time he watched Father of the Bride, which I would have been, I don't know, 7, max, 8 years
Oh
old.
man.
So,
I saw
like,
that movie with my dad in the theaters.
oh my God. Like that movie's so good. So good. It's
So good.
still perfect. Martin Short and BD Wong steal the show.
Steal the show. And then
Um
Father of the Bride 2 is kind of ridiculous, but it's also
that
fun.
one's ridiculous, but the
But
first
it's
one
fun.
is still perfection. But it is funny because like I have asked already so many times if we can show Jaws and Jurassic Park to our child who is
Young.
nowhere near the right age for
Nowhere.
that movie. But like, I was younger than he was when I first saw Jaws.
So I will tell you
Oh,
that I have shown my child, who is also not old enough to see it because I was like, of course I talk about Jurassic Park because he was into dinosaurs at first. I was like,
Of
dude,
course.
there's this movie called Jurassic Park. And
It's the
he's
best.
like, and then I don't know why I showed him the particular scene with the toilet. He
So
laughed his he laughed his ass off. He was like, I was like, I don't think that was the right. I don't. You weren't
not the
supposed,
response I was looking for.
or the response I was expecting because I was like, oh, I think this is too scary. We should stop. And he's like, no, 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 no. And then, yeah, that movie is oof, so good. Oh, perfect movie. And that and the music, because
Oh,
they talk about the music in this one.
have to talk about the music.
You have
John
to talk about.
Williams is like just he's up there with Steven Spielberg for what he does as a movie musical composer. Like
And it's so
for
simple. And it's so
it couldn't
simple.
be more simple unless you played one note. It's two notes. It's two notes. That's it. And even you hadn't seen the movie, you would know that if like you know that when you hear it. It is I would be curious to see a list of like the most recognizable movie themes, and I would be absolutely shocked if that was not the top of it. Luckily, here we have internet.
We asked
Most
Google.
um recognizable movie themes. Of course, I'm going to say that I have internet and it's not going to work.
Of course. Well, today is a big, we're recording on a day where there was like a massive outage. That's fun.
Okay, so I was wondering about that because like I couldn't get to connections this morning, which was very upsetting to me. So I think AWS is down.
Yeah, no. So AWS is down. So basically,
Right.
AWS is down, and I don't know if they think I haven't seen any of the news, but I don't know if it's like they think it's an attack or something's
Oh,
happened.
well, all that F5 stuff, the VPN stuff came out last week. All right, the most recognizable movie scores. This is not a name. Okay, Star Wars, Halloween, Jaws, Mission Impossible, all kind of up there.
Yeah,
All right, I could see Star Wars, but like you hear those like two little notes, and you're
two
like,
little notes.
"Where's the shark?"
Every time I think of that, I think of The Holiday.
Oh my god, great movie.
Another
Nancy
great
Myers,
movie. That's
another
Nora
Nancy
Ephron.
Myers.
That's Nora Ephron. Okay, I will take. No, it's not. But no, every time I think of that,
Yeah,
I think
it's
of the
Nora
scene of
Ephron.
Frozen. But let's take inspiration from a variety of uh of, of inspirations, like the kitchen and this or the kitchen and that. Why do you want to go to the same movie? Well, why would they switch houses if they would have the same damn kitchen, Terry?
The Holiday is a
Ugh,
fantastic movie.
fantastic movie, and I still like. Again, these movies elicit responses in us. They elicit the time where we, succeed. And, I think, watching it and, we've talked about how, there's other things happening in life, obviously beyond this. But I really kind of liked Stephen talking about how hard it was, like how,
Yeah.
the pressure felt, and I related to that a little bit. And it kind of made me feel better to be like, oh yeah, things happen and things ebb and flow, and kind of seeing it with his perspective was really nice.
But I think it would also make him happy to know that 50 years later and after your umpteenth, X hundredth, whatever time seeing it, it's still 2 hours where I completely escape from everything and I am just in that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it truly is. I keep saying it, but I can't think of a movie that is more perfect than Jaws. And I challenge every director out there to try their damnedest to do it because that means great movies. But like, goddamn, I cannot think of one. I welcome everyone else's. What movie you think is more perfect than Jaws? Because like, we're back to movies. We're off TV shows in our house. My husband gets on his soapbox about getting sucked in and feeling like he's been had because then we're married to something for 9 seasons where they go absolutely fucking nowhere. So we're back on movies in our house. And so I'm open to recommendations and I will happily search for something better than Jaws because to me, I have yet to find it.
But I think it's also when you see the movie, right? I think Back to the Future is a like
Also,
maybe, but could be because it's the first movie I saw in a movie theater. Like, do you
oh,
know what I mean?
yeah,
It creates kind of a link to the nostalgia part of like the beginning of me and my dad went to movies all the time. Like in the movie theater,
love
it's like
that.
it was our thing, right? So we went to, all these movies and like went to all these different things. And I'm wondering if like for me, Back to the Future holds like this like iconic like pedestal like effort,
Sure.
like not effort, but pedestal like stature. And I go, is it because I connect it to kind of the awe that I had, first I was coming out from that was the first time I'd ever seen a movie in a theater. I didn't even know
That's
theaters
amazing.
existed, right? Like I didn't know theaters existed. I was like, what's going on here? Like, what are we doing? Like, so I think there's like the concept of is that like linked to it? And
Oh,
like
sure.
me like watching Jaws, I'm like, it's a magnificent movie. And I and to the point, and I think the point is it just connects you to those feelings in like such a raw way
Yeah.
because Jaws is a danger and like we're humans and we want to protect. We want to protect people, we want to protect ourselves, we want to survive. And that I think is what gets it to its like perfectness because it gets you to an experience everybody has. Like at some point we're either afraid of death or we're
Yeah.
afraid of something or a danger, and I think that really creates a common thing that we can all like understand. I think
Yeah.
that's and it's very rare to have movies be able to get to that human experience that everybody has.
Very true. And it truly changed all of film and cinema. It was the first ever blockbuster movie. And I'm not even entirely sure that that was the intention when they made it. You know what I mean? Like it just became that, which is also kind
Yeah.
of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's, I love it.
It's a great documentary. And I would be remiss not to mention the end of this where Steven Spielberg quite vulnerably, and I think he says this probably from sitting where he is because he's so famous and he doesn't fucking care anymore. But he talks about his PTSD, like how hard this movie was to make. And I think and he talks about the boat, about how the boat, he would, sneak onto the boat because they had obviously a replica on the sound stages,
The
and
Orca.
how he like the orca and how he like kind of says that the boat, helped him, manage and kind of deal with the feelings that he was having after this movie. And I thought that was like a very fitting way of saying, boats take you somewhere, right? They help you, they guide you. Maybe they're the end of you, who knows? It really depends on, what how you see it. But I really appreciated that, especially in a time where people try to hide how hard things are, and we don't talk about sometimes that life is hard. Despite the fact that they had this blockbuster, like he thought he was going to be fired, and then it was like he probably couldn't not say no to a movie again, right? They were coming to him after that. And I think it's just I really appreciated that he brought that because he didn't need to talk about it, but he did. I
Yeah,
really
I
like
love that.
that.
I love that too.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
again,
What's your
watch Jaws, watch the
watch Jaws?
documentary, watch Jaws.
We need your rating. We need your what the fuck meter.
What the fuck meter is the fact is my number 11 that they
Oh,
fucking
oh
built,
wow. Okay.
that they built Bruce in that short of span of time. I don't think it was a month because then I like went back and it was like, but basically they were like built 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 a 26-foot replica hydraulics for shark.
Hydraulic.
High, and they built it in like such short amount of time, and, like, my brain is, like, not I'm not mechanical like that, and I'm like, "How does that even work? Like, what do you
Um,
do?" So that's mine thing, and the text that Elaine is referring to is that I sent her a text going, "It is true what the boomers are right. Nobody wants to work anymore." Because because damn, friendos, damn, damn,
Damn.
damn.
So I was just looking this up too. It has a 100% on a tomato meter from Rotten Tomatoes. That's
I
all like user ratings. I think it's still pretty new, and I don't think it's got huge viewership, but it's a great documentary, especially if you're a fan of the movie. So,
Oh, yeah.
you know, that doesn't hurt. But I did want to look up the Rotten Tomatoes because oftentimes we include that um, in what we've seen, because we've seen a lot of high 90s Rotten Tomato documentaries, and the first ever 100% Rotten Tomato rating, and still has it to this day, Man on Wire. And that's both I'm usually looking for like the critics
Yeah.
review one. That was the first one to have 100. This one's got 100 from users. I don't disagree because it's just good and it's fun and you learn something too, right? So
Yeah. No, no, I think it definitely deserves the 100. Not that we've ever seen, like, a not that Elaine has ever steered us wrong when it comes to documentaries, so
So, in thinking about uh, mechanics and mechanics that go underwater for our next documentary, she already
yes.
knows where I'm going with
Yes.
this.
Please do. Yes.
Shall we move to the
Pop
absolutely
pop
anxiety inducing documentary about the Titan submersible? Because I think we should. Linda and I have already watched all of them. There are two. There's one on Disney. Sorry, one Discovery Plus
Netflix.
one,
Yeah, and then there's
and
a
the
Netflix
Netflix
one.
one. I say we focus on the Netflix one.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. We're going to stand. Well, we're going underwater, and we're staying underwater. Yeah.
Pop, pop,
Oh
pop.
God. There's my shivers already.
Oh, that is wild, a wild documentary. I think we watched it the day it came out.
I mean, I
It's
tried to stay up till midnight just so I could watch it, like literally the minute it came out.
I was like, "Oh, that's so adorable." Of course you didn't wake up, you didn't stay up.
No, of course I didn't. I woke up at like 6 a.m. and watched it instead.
There you go. And so yeah, it's wild. And I will say this, like, as people that really followed that as it was happening,
But every goddamn second, we were all over this.
all
Like,
over
I
it.
purposely kept the news on with the countdown for like how much air they theoretically still had. Like we were minute by minute.
Yeah, we
Like, I think
were.
I remember the moment you texted me and you were like, "There's a submersible missing." What?
It was amazing. And then obviously the memes. And then, I think, it's either it's your jam or not your jam. But
It's our jam.
in any case, this documentary is amazing. So we will do, as we said, the Netflix one, because there are two.
It's
So
fun.
the Netflix one, and you're
You
in
can watch
for
both. I have a feel like we'll probably reference. There's
yeah,
not a ton of stuff that is in the Discovery Plus one that isn't in the Netflix one. Maybe a couple things. So maybe we'll reference like some of
yeah,
that from the other. Feel free to watch both, but because they are both very well done. But the Netflix one is the one we will be focusing on.
yeah. And so that's going to be an adventure. I think, you know, wow. That's
It's
all I have to
something.
say.
I mean, we
It's
already have
something.
so many. I don't even need to watch it again. Like we could
No,
do another 2 hours because I have so many thoughts. So many
so many,
thoughts.
so
I
many
won't
thoughts.
divulge any here in case y'all haven't watched it yet or you don't know the story of the Titan Ocean Gate submersible.
Just hearing that like gives me chills. Just hearing the word Ocean Gate,
Yeah.
chills.
And it's not like a Watergate, Deflategate. Like the name of the company was Ocean Gate.
Ocean
Titan
Gate.
was their submersible. It was a massive story for several days, has continued to be a massive story, 2 years later. And it's, I mean, we'll get into it. We will really get into it. It's fascinating. And I have so many thoughts. I put the memes of Ocean Gate up there with like when the Suez Canal was blocked.
Oh yeah.
Those gave me life. Like truly gave me life. Like the one about like when you would sleep and one nostril gets like blocked and then you roll over and the other one that's like one of my favorite Suez Canal memes.
It's magnificent.
Man.
At least, that's what the internet is for. The internet is for...
Yeah, and we'll have each other in hell. We'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll be there. Yeah, all good.
This podcast in hell for everyone.
Somebody sent me, oh, I don't know if I sent you this, but somebody sent me very questionable Michelle Wolf joke.
Oh, God.
Did I send that to you?
Maybe? I don't remember.
Maybe. Okay, but I sent you too many reels, so I get it. But I'll send it again. Okay. And I was like, the person said to me, and I was like, see you in hell.
Yeah. They sent it to me.
I was like, see you in hell. But, as we have a next regular scheduled episode, I thought Elaine and I thought it would be great. And this was a topic that she brought up, that Elaine brought up in one of our discussions, and I had to look it up. I actually didn't know what it meant. And it's the great human equalizer. So the concept of how, we might all have different lives and different experiences and perspectives, but the great human equalizers are things that we all experience. So everybody in life experiences life, death, certain kind of big things. So we will, kind of delve into that and delve into how, it creates connection with others and how you can use it potentially to create connections with others as well.
We'll include some like silly ones too, because I have like a general list of ones that I talk about that are just like silly, but things I believe are true great human equalizers.
Yeah.
Like I'll throw out one example because it's my silly throw one. Like no one looks good in bowling shoes. Bowling shoes are a great human equalizer.
Yep.
Something silly like that. We'll get into some of those too. So we'll get into some heavy ones, but we'll throw in some light ones too.
And as I'm a bummer, my great human equalizer is death. So I'll talk about that one.
Yeah,
sorry,
of course.
I taught one of my children about death when he was like 3. So it's to the detriment of him waking up in the middle of the night one day and going, "Am I gonna die?" And I'm like, it's 3 a.m. and he's screaming, and I'm like, this is a great human equalizer discussion. So we'll have, laughter and a little bit more serious ones as well. So, tune in. And, as always, our email is open. Send us suggestions. Send us what you think. We'd love to hear from you. And, thanks again for bringing Jaws into my life. Cause I, always knew about it. You had to do it. And it was a really, truly great movie that I'll, go back and watch again. As everybody knows, I'm not big into watching things, and this is definitely a movie that I will go back to.
Excellent. That makes me happy.
Thank you everybody for joining us, and Elaine, take us away.
Stay interesting.